Hi everyone, it's Alicia with another Q&A. This question came in about events and event planning, and it reads, how many times in a year can you do sponsorship and events? Um, and that completely depends on your organization. Um, some organizations will do maybe one or two events. Some do, you know, 5 or 6 or 10. It just really depends on your organization and your fundraising plan and what you've set up. One of the biggest factors, though, in doing events is your board and your staff's capacity to do them. If you are a really small organization, it may be just your board. You may not have a staff. And so it's really going to depend on their capacity to be able to put on events. If you've got a very small board, you may be only able to manage one event a year. If you've got a larger organization with staff, you may be putting on 2 or 3 or 4 every year. There are even really large organizations that have a full-time person who does nothing but plan events, or handle the DIY, the do-it-yourself events that come into them. So it depends on your capacity as an organization as to how many you can do. You don't want to do so many that your board or your staff is just like that we are so burnt out on events. And I think if you get to that point, you've become too dependent on events, and it's time to figure another income stream out, because you don't want to overwork anyone. And as far as sponsorship packages go, you can do sponsorship packages in one of two ways. You can do a yearly sponsorship, and I would target those people or those businesses that have done sponsorships for you in the past. And a yearly sponsorship lays out from the first event to the last event all year long what the event is, who it brings in, who you target, if you've done it before, what your numbers were in attendance, last year, last 2 years. So you're going to do all of that in a yearly sponsorship. And yearly sponsorships, you're only going to go after once per calendar year. So those can be easier sometimes because then you've got all the funding for that entire year for your events. And you're not having to go back to the same people over and over. And if you have a yearly package where they can kind of pick and choose which events they want to do, it can be easier. I would also, though, if I'm doing an individual event, I would also have some individual event sponsorship packages just for that event, because there may be someone that's never sponsored before, but you would like to ask, and so that's a good way to get people into your organization, is to just go, and if it really fits well with what their business is trying to do, this will be an opening for you to get into sponsorships. Great thing if you really think that they fit well. It's the first time you're asking. One of the things that you may decide to do is not ask them for a sponsorship, but offer them a table or tickets to the event or registration, whatever it is, and ask them to come as your guest. This will help you start the relationship, and it will help so that you can build that relationship, and maybe the next year be able to ask them You know, remember when you went to the gala, how much fun it was? Oh, here's the pictures um, that was taken of you at this gala. Would you like to be a sponsor this year? Would you like to help us out in that way? That can be a very powerful thing. Let's see. Um, and like I said, when you're targeting the individual sponsorships, make sure you're targeting businesses that align with what you're doing or with your audience. Those are great things to do. So, let's see. Another thing is if you have really large events like a gala or a 5K, you know, time-consuming events, you're typically going to hold those maybe twice a year, the spring and the fall. You're going to do that just because the larger the event, the more time consuming it is, and you may not have the bandwidth to continuously be putting on these events. And then the DIY events, we talked about those. Do it yourself. These are the community events. This is when others say, hey, we want to do a bake sale. We want to do a car wash that benefits you. We want to put on a tournament, golf tournament that benefits you. Those are DIY events. And something you have to consider is whenever someone comes to you and does that, you're going to have to really ask what time commitment they are expecting from you. They may expect for, you know, like if it's a golf tournament, they may expect for you to come the day of the golf tournament, spend all day, and, you know, talk to people or play golf or whatever. You know, and that's great. I mean, that can be well worth your time, but you can kind of decide that. And those DIY events, if they're not labor intensive on your part, you can certainly have more of them, but you're not doing the work. You're not selling the sponsorships. The only thing, well, usually the greatest time commitment is that you have to show up that day, kind of help out, work the event, and then get the check. Sometimes though, they'll hold the event, and after that they'll come and they'll say, we want to what we used to call grip and grins, you know, those pictures where they're shaking hands with the with each other and there's a check in between them. Sometimes that's all they want. They just want the picture and for you to put it out there and for them to put it out there. And, you know, those are great events because you're not going, there's little work involved in those. But anyway, so if it's a DIY event, you can do more of those. But if you are putting on the event, it really depends on your organization and your organization's capacity to put on those events. So I hope that helps. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you later. Bye.